We are now joined by Mr. Rajiv Bajaj. He's Managing Director of Bajaj Auto and the speaker of this year's St. Gallen Symposium. Mr. Bajaj, thank you very much for granting us some of your time. You're hosting a work session about management and homeopathy. Could you tell us in a nutshell what exactly the one has to do with the other?
I've been working for 21 years. At the end of the first 15 years, I found that there is one problem with management science. And I say this at a management institute, that there is very little science in management. There's a lot of anecdote, there's a lot of hindsight, but there are very few principles that stand the test of time. So when I was looking for a different way of doing things, I ran into homeopathy as a medical science.
Perspective, I've been a student of homeopathy for the last 10 years. And let me give you this quick analogy. In a human being, wellness, whether it's a cold or a cough, whether it's a thyroid problem, whether it's a sinus, whether it's a joint pain, whether it's cholesterol, blood pressure, irritable bowel syndrome, whatever it is. These are all symptoms of a problem. They're not the disease, although we tend to think of them as a disease. These symptoms are rooted in our immune system. Any doctor that you talk to will tell you, you have an immune system. The immune system is not a physical or a material organ. And yet, if it is dysfunctional, that leads to problems in your material organs, whether it's your ear or your nose or your eyes or your stomach or your heart, your lungs, your liver, your kidney. Now to me, if I were to apply that, and I do apply that to my company, I run my company like a homeopathic manager. And in the same vein, if I were to say that in a country or in the scheme of politics, there is something which is physical. They are the people, they are the systems, they are the resources, so on and so forth, as much as a human being has physical parts. But then there is something immaterial. There is a form of energy in that which is called governance. As much as a human being has an immune system which is not physical, in politics there is something called governance which is not physical. But when that governance becomes dysfunctional, it gives rise to symptoms like education mein problem hai, health mein problem hai, infrastructure mein problem hai, policy paralysis hai, vagara vagara. So I strongly believe, and that is why I said Arvind's holistic idea appealed to me, because at the risk of exaggeration I would say that I believe that everything comes from one thing. This corruption is a 1,000-headed monster, like one mega Ravan, that causes all the symptoms from which we suffer. And therefore I believe that corruption in its wider sense encapsulates everything. If that is sorted out, governance will become vital and symptoms will disappear. Now you ask me how one should do this. Simply put, as a businessman, this is how I see it. There is a system. There are people who work on the system, i.e. let's say the politicians, the bureaucrats and the powers that be. There are guys like us that work in the system. For the guy like me that works in the system, all I got to do is to know where to put my foot down. I can give you examples later if you like of matters related to product development, to labor, to land, to selling my vehicles, and being having to contend with black marketing, of which I have nothing to do but inevitably become a part of. So I have a choice there to say yes or to say no, whether I want to be a part of that or not. So as a person who exists in the system, I can't do much about the system, but I can make the choice that I wish to for myself. As far as the people who work on the system is concerned, I think that change has to be brought about top down. And quite simply, the role that people like me can play in a very small role there, in a small way there, is to support the people who apparently seem to have the best intentions and the best chance of making that change. I think as far as on the system is concerned, the best that I can do is be part of the change that is in the offing, and I think I'm trying to do that.